Welcome to episode 141 of the Forward from 50 podcast, where we interview people over 50 who are pursuing new direction for their lives. It's an opportunity for men and women to tell their stories their way and in their own words. I'm Greg Gerber, the founder of Forward from 50 and your host for today's show. Today I get to speak with Jackie Lapin. She's an entrepreneur and lifelong adventurer who turned her passion for history, photography, and storytelling into the Historic Traveler website. It is an immersive platform for people who love to explore the past while traveling the world. Jackie has been a publicist for authors and experts for decades, but when she turned 70, she realized it was time for her to pursue something that brought her true joy. And she settled on documenting the beauty and stories behind historic places. Here are some of the key takeaways from my interview with Jackie. First, Jackie's fascination with history began at age 10 during a school visit to California's missions. That early spark grew into a lifelong curiosity about the people and places that shaped the world. Second, the Historic Traveler blends her love of photography, historic novels, and travel. The site features articles about destinations, book recommendations, interviews with authors, and a digital magazine filled with stories and photos from around the globe. Third, she encourages travelers to go beyond the tourist hotspots by wandering city streets, seeking private guides, and exploring off-the-beaten-path neighborhoods that reveal a region's true character. Fourth, members of the Historic Traveler website can access directories of historic hotels, museums, films, and TV dramas, along with a free bi-weekly newsletter packed with history news, book reviews, and travel inspiration. Jackie's mission is to make history come alive for everyone, whether you're physically traveling the world or enjoying armchair adventures from home. Her story is a beautiful example of how creating space for what you love can open doors to new purpose and possibility after 50. To tell us more about what led her to develop the Historic Traveler and how it's changing the lives of others, please welcome Jackie Lapin to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Jackie. I really appreciate it. What prompted you to do this international travel?
So we really have to go way back to when I was a young girl at the age of 10, and they took me to the California missions as a school project. And I fell in love with history. And so it's been a lifelong love affair for me. Whenever I got a chance, I think my first international trip was a cruise through the Caribbean. But it wasn't just a three-city, it was like 9 islands. And so that was it. I was off and running with my camera. And so every time I had an opportunity, I would escape and go photograph something. But you have to understand that what I was photographing was a lot of times the history of a place. And before I went, I would bone up on reading both historic novels, which is, I feel, a great way to understand history without really having to slog through the facts. But I also would read history books, and then I'd also read a guidebook. And so all of that prepped me. So when I got to someplace, I knew what I was looking at. I understood the context. I could talk to people intelligently about it. And I had a target of what I was going to look at to photograph.
That's neat. So you started to photograph these things. Is that what really triggered this? Is that what you did for a living?
No, not at all. I've always been in the business of helping authors, leaders, and experts get booked on podcasts and radio shows. That's the last 20 years. Before that, I had one of the world's largest sports special events and cable TV PR agencies. And before that, I was one of the first women sports writers. I segued onto all that, but all the time I was doing that, I was a closet photographer. Nobody knew. And so I'd come home and I'd put them in carousels like I bet you a lot of your listeners did. And then I'd also put them in notebooks when the carousels got to be too many of them, 85 actually. And so they just sat there. But I had a yearning to share my photography with people. But I figured, all right, the time will come. Something will happen. And I think the real impetus more recently was the fact that I hit 70 and realized that there were less years ahead of me than there were behind me. I didn't know how much longer I was going to be able to carry a 50-pound suitcase and 3 cameras on my back and my new little cell phone and all that. And so I figured, okay, I better just do this because otherwise I'm going to be sitting in my grave saying, I wish I had. So I went And I booked a trip. Now, I'm still working, but I basically told the team, you hold down the fort. And I went to my 9 bucket cities that I had yet to see. So now I knew that I could experience the ones that were most highest on my priority. So it was an absolutely life-changing, phenomenal trip. And I got home and I had all this, but I'd already known that I wanted to offload one of the businesses that I did because it wasn't joyful for me. Something just opened the door that let this in. And the Historic Traveler became the culmination of all of my life's love of history, historic novels, and also photography. So I put it all together. That's what I have to say.
That is a very good story, because a lot of us are so busy being busy that when we create that margin in our life, it does open those doors and the opportunity for us to pursue the things that we've wanted to do for many years.
It was like getting rid of the things I must do for the things I would love to do.
That's right.
And I sit at my computer editing fabulous photos from around the world and writing articles about individual locations. My storytelling skills, have been a writer my whole life. So I tell you a little of the history, and then I tell you what to see in that place that's historically significant and why you should see that. And then at the end of the article, which of course is accompanied with my wonderful photos, at the end of the article, I give you what books to read: historic novels, history books, mysteries, and biographies. So it makes you feel like you lived there, that you experienced it in that time period.
I love that, because now you can, like you said, read up before you get there, and everything is, now the pictures come to life and you can really see what it was that you were talking about. And from that historical perspective, that would be interesting as well, because some of that fades away over the years. But just to have that, know that this important event took place in this city that I'm in at right now at this moment, is really cool.
I was just looking at photographs that I took in Dublin of the Easter Rising, and I have a picture of bullet holes still in the post office. So that's the kind of stuff that I love. It really tells the story.
That's right. A lot of times when people go traveling, they just hit the tourist spots and they miss out on the real stories in that community. Do you have any suggestions on how to get beyond the things that everybody wants to see to enjoy the things that would make it really memorable and special?
The first is reading up. Will give you an idea of what to see. And go wander. You don't have to stay in just the areas that are the tourist designation areas. When I go into a city, I walk, and I really walk for at least 2 days. The first thing I do is that I take a bus trip. And so I can get a sense of a half-day city tour or something like that, or a hop-on, hop-off bus. So I can see what I need to see and what the places. But when I get to love those places, then I start walking. And now I can see, okay, so this is a cathedral. What's back of the cathedral? And what are these little shops over here? And why is this so colorful over here? And boy, I hear some music coming over from there. And so you just start wandering. And with me, with my camera, I'm chronically everything that I see, because I never know what really is going to help me tell the story. But for me, it's beautiful or interesting or something I want to remember. And so you want to do that. But I also want to encourage you. You can certainly get guides. We have on our website, we have Viator, which is a great resource that has in-city tours everywhere you go, all over the world. So you can book them right from our website. But a lot of times you can also get a private guide. And when you have a private guide, and sometimes they're expensive, but sometimes they aren't. When you get a private guide and you tell them, I don't want to just see the famous stuff. Take me around a little bit. Like when you're in Dublin, for example, like I'm talking about, they have all these beautiful residential squares. And on those squares, the doors on the townhouses around them are painted brilliant colors. You have to see it to believe it. And you'd ask somebody to take you into these beautiful squares. So those are the kinds of things that when you have a private guide, they're also going to know the stuff that you will like. A lot of times they'll say to you, what do you want to see? Or let me make some suggestions. And then you can really drill down into the places off the beaten path.
How do people find a private guide? Is that something they have to do in advance, or can they find one on the fly?
They can do both. A lot of times the tourism office in that place will recommend. Also, hotel concierges are very good at that. And by the way, one of the benefits of membership in the historic travel is that we have a no-cost travel concierge. They will book your whole trip, everything you need to see and do, and not charge you a penny for it.
Wow.
It's the destinations that will basically cover their costs. So you really want to take advantage of that. That's one of the fabulous member benefits that we have. And by the way, our membership is free. It doesn't cost you a thing.
So you can be a member and get free bookings to all of these fun places as well? That sounds like a good deal too good to be true.
You're going to have to pay for your trip. The person doing it is not going to charge you for it. But yes.
That's good. So you're getting an experienced travel planner is helping you see these historic places and what to look for when you get there.
Exactly. But we have some other resources on the website that's going to be really valuable to you. A member gets our directory for historic novels, history books, and mysteries, which tells you what books to pick anywhere you want to go. You can sort by your city, your country, or your state. Also, we have the world's hugest directory of historic hotels and hotels and B&Bs. If you really love the essence of staying in a place that's history, you can find that. We also have a directory of historic TV dramas if you just want to sit in your home and watch, where you can see them going all the way back to Roots. We also have a directory. We're building a directory of historic museums. That one is coming. We also have a look at the 200 top historic films that have been over the last several years by era. So you can say, I want to go see the ancient world, or I'm looking for stuff at the turn of the century. You can do that. So we have all of those kinds of resources that give you extra abilities to take a window in the past. But also, let me tell you about some of the other things. So you get a newsletter every other week. And in that newsletter, I'm going to give you book reviews, which, by the way, there's always one on the homepage. I'm going to give you news about what's going on in the world of history and what's being uncovered. I'll tell you about authors and the books we've just added into the directory. We'll also tell you about opportunities when I start taking people on trips. Haven't done that yet, but I'm going to be hooking up with some partners, and I will carry the news on that. Now, besides all that, we have a community. So we have a book club. We have a once-a-month meeting. We have it's a chat room kind of situation where you can communicate with people, and there's always cool stuff in there as well. So it's really fully encompassing. So when you go to our website, the first thing you're going to see, our online destination is what we call it. The first thing you're going to see is our articles. Right now, there are always 4 featured right at the top, and then you can thumb through whatever else is out there. Then we have a magazine. It's an 80-page magazine. And in that magazine, the first half of the magazine is destinations. And then the second half of the magazine is media. So it's books and TV and movies. Each one of them has a Q&A with an expert. The first one will be somebody that's an expert in history or preservation. We've got the man that saved the lighthouse all around America in the first issue. We've got a woman who's an expert in graveyards and ossuaries, historical. One of the next ones is going to have the guys that saving dude ranches all over the West. And that's really cool. But the really fun part is if you really are a historic novel enthusiast, we have interviews in the other half of the magazine with some of the top historic novelists in the world. Tony Riches was in issue number 2, the Elizabethan and Tudor author. Then I have the next one coming up is going to be Fiona Davis, who is famous for her books that are dual timelines, women in 2 different eras, but they're all based in historic buildings in New York City. And if you might know her for a book, The Lions of New York City, and The Lions of New York. And that tells a story. She discovered that there was a living quarters, an apartment in the New York Public Library back when it was built, and the superintendent lived there. But she turned it into a great novel, and you learn all about the building when you do it. So for anybody who loves historic buildings like I do, Her books are catnip. So I'm going to bring you great interviews with people as well. So that's the encompassing resources that you get at the Historic Traveler.
Is there a cost for any of this? Or is it all full? Not really. My goodness. So
Yeah.
people just have to go to historictraveler.com and sign up for the newsletter, and they get all of this. And then once they're reading it and it triggers them to, I've got to go see this for myself, they can call up one of your travel agents and get everything booked.
Exactly right. And we're out there. We're coordinating with sponsors and advertisers who want to come on and promote things on our website. And that's how we're going to keep it free for people, as we're finding other ways to cover the costs, because we believe that this is something everybody should enjoy. And no matter what age you are, that this is something that is long needed and will transport you into time travel, whether you're well enough to travel and you're active enough to do that, or whether you're armchair traveling and sitting at home and looking for a new good book to read. So it's all there.
That's wonderful. You had talked about local hotels and places to stay, and I know people love to travel. Many times they feel they have to go with the chains because they're more reliable, they know what to expect, kind of thing. Is it possible to enjoy trips by staying at places that are local that people might not know about or find as easily online?
Absolutely. That's the real fun of it. And for example, I just wrote an article for our Spirited edition in October about the Hotel del Coronado in San Diego, which of course is haunted as well. But it's a beautiful Victorian era hotel. And so that's just a perfect example of finding a hotel where you get to wander around and see the history in it, and it's not a super large change. But let's just give you an idea. I went to Verona on that big trip I was telling you about. And the hotel I was in was two 13th century palazzos. In between, there was a courtyard, which was where they built the entryway for the hotel. You went up a little step into the breakfast room and looked down into a glass window in a Roman living room.
Oh my goodness.
Incredible. Now, you're necessarily going to get that in a Hyatt. So go off the beaten path, go find, and some of them are pricey, but some of them are not. Those wonderful pensions in Italy, a lot of them are not. Now, sometimes in an old pension, you are going to have to lug your luggage, or you're going to just squeeze into a little tiny elevator, but it's still there. They have the charm. Places we stayed in France were amazing. So don't assume that you have to stay in the chains.
Sounds like part of the story and part of the trip and the experience and the memories are found when you get off the beaten path and do the things that other people are normally doing.
Exactly. Okay. And historic hotels, sometimes they may only date from the 1920s, but they've got a storied experience. They were a place where the Gilded Age kind of folks stayed and things like that. They don't have to be from the 13th century. So you may find things that are more current that are still historic and offer great amenities and opportunities and a window on the past.
I experienced that myself a few years ago when I was finishing up my travel along Route 66. I spent the night in Arizona at a hotel that had a sign on the door of all the famous people who had actually stayed in that room. So I was in the same room that the guy from Adam 12 was in, and the kid who played Lassie, Timmy on Lassie. And that was just neat. It added to the fun and the experience. And I remember it today. I can't tell you anything about the other places I've stayed at in the last 10 years.
And the 1950s and 60s are now considered historical. We've been through. But you'll find a lot of the Googie era kinds of hotels, and that typify that. And I read a really wonderful piece that I cited in my newsletter recently in the LA Times about how so many of them have been repurposed all over the West. And so you get a little of the old and plenty of the new amenities. So, yes, there are just little secrets to be found
Mhm.
everywhere.
What about food? That is one of the best things about traveling that I found. I traveled in an RV for 3 years, a couple of years ago, and I just enjoyed finding these restaurants and places to get foods that are popular in that particular area and gives you a real taste, if you excuse the pun, of that particular region.
I loved goulash in that part of the world. When I was in Belgium, I had something called waterzwee, which is like a clam chowder without the clam in it, but it's milky and potatoey and absolutely fantastic. So yes, try the local cuisine, and the best way to do that is ask the hotel where to go to find good local cuisine, not the touristy stuff,
Mhm.
where you can eat what the locals have created that has become the mainstay.
That's a great idea. How did you determine the places to visit? You said that they were on your bucket list, that the ones that you started, but now are you just going back to those over and over again, or are you continuing to expand on your bucket list?
Heck no, I'm not going back to the same. I got plenty more to see. Next on my list is Egypt. So I'm definitely got that. I've been to 500 locations in
Wow.
50 different countries, but there are a lot of things that eluded me. And there's lots of cities that I haven't got to. I'd like to go see the Cinque Terre cities in Italy. I'd like to go to Malta. They're smaller. They're not as big as the main cities that I had always wanted to see now that I've hit them. But I'm looking for places that I haven't been on. I want to go to Turkey and Istanbul. I'm going to wait until they take the scaffolding off the Hagia Sophia, which they added this year to do some renovation. But that I'm not going with my camera to only to take pictures of scaffolding. So that's the kinds of places that I haven't been to yet, and I want to go. One of the things that we didn't mention here, by the way, and I should remiss if I don't, is not only do you get my pictures in the individual articles and on the magazine, but I have a photo gallery on the site. And the photo gallery has 60 different collections. And it's not all historic buildings and places. It's landscapes, it's animals, it's roses, it's hot air balloons, it's all kinds of different things that I just find beautiful and love to photograph. And so I encourage you to go over to the site. You just pick Meet Jackie, then that'll give you the entry to my photo gallery and peruse to your heart's content. I really am very proud of the images that I've been able to assemble there, but it'll tell you a story about wherever I've been, just the pictures themselves.
Are you a self-taught photographer, or did you take some classes?
I'm actually a terrible photographer in a lot of ways. I cannot get the lighting right in a lot of circumstances. I'm not great at landscapes. What I do well is I have a good eye, a really good eye. And things draw my eye. And so I want to capture that, whatever it is. And it's not always a building. It might be the nuances, the flowers on the window. It might be the doorknob. It might be the design. It might be the interior, whatever it is. I'll try to capture it. Now, are they perfect? Probably not. I come back here, stick on my Photoshop, and I start lightening them up and darkening this to make sure that you see what I saw, even if my camera didn't catch it the way that it was. And I really love, there's this one feature on Photoshop that's just my all-time favorite, and that's the object removal. Cones and streets and cranes in the background, they go away. And you get to see the unadulterated beauty of wherever it is that I am. No, I'm not a great photography technical, but I am really have a sensibility from an eye standpoint.
So do you recommend Photoshop then for people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a great tool. Let me tell you one other thing. A lot of times you can't control what the weather is when you're traveling. I'm
Mhm.
sitting there cursing when it's cloudy and dark and I don't get the quality of the image. But in the current versions of Photoshop, you can actually press a button that says blue sky. And all of a sudden, it'll turn the picture stunning. Now, you shouldn't necessarily always use the blue they give you. Sometimes you have to back it off a little bit so it's not so ridiculously neon. But it really does. It looks real and it changes the entire image. Now, I don't feel it's cheating. It's more like I'm just giving God a little push. And you can see the beauty in the place regardless. I just made it look better.
So you're not leading tours yourself at the moment, but it sounds like that's going to be coming up soon.
Yes, my intention is to hook up with a travel company and start doing partnership tours. But I needed to build this beautiful infrastructure first, and then next that's in phase 2.
Okay. Is phase 2 coming in 2026, or is it likely a little beyond that?
Probably late 2026.
Okay, super. So you'll have more information on the website for the tours that you yourself will be leading. So if people wanted to join you, I'm sure they'll be able to find the information at some point.
Actually, if they get on the newsletter, you sign up for the newsletter or sign up for membership. If you sign up for membership, you get the newsletter. It comes twice a month. I'll tell you when those are activated. In the meantime, you get book reviews and news and fun stuff. We're running a contest right now. The most people that bring other folks in as members, we're going to give them a wonderful hardback historic novel.
That's a great idea. Maybe a free trip if they bring in a lot of members, huh?
That would be a lovely aspiration.
Yeah. You talked about photography a lot and how well you are and how many photos you've taken over the years. That seems to be a problem for people today. Back in the olden days, when they had to rely on film, you only had 24 or 36 shots per canister. And so people were very selective about what they took pictures of. Today, you can just hold the button down and go click and wind up with 20 photos of the same thing. How do you manage your photos to make...
The first thing, by the way, I did digitize 35,000 images using a slide scanner. But the way I manage is, first of all, I don't click. I click a lot, but I'm also looking to see what I'm getting so I can make adjustments as I go. And then at the end of the day, I'll just, while I'm sitting around relaxing, I'll just go through the day's shooting and eliminate anything that's not any good. And that way, when I come home, I've only got first draft version, I have to say. It's everything that's fairly decent. And then when I go home, then I get much more granular about which ones I'm going to work with, which ones I'm going to use, and whether I have to edit them.
I think all of us have these vast collection of photographs stored on our computers, external hard drives, or in the cloud. But they really don't do much good if we never look at them, and we certainly don't display them anymore. How do you recommend, or what would you recommend to people to maintain these memories through the photographs that they've taken?
There are a number of services that allow you to create online photo sharing opportunities. And you can take there, you can get to them from Google and AOL and all kinds of other things. They're cloud-based. And it makes it really easy for you to share albums with people. One of the things that we did I use a service called Pixie Set. And that gives me the opportunity when people click on them, they can buy them for their screensavers or for their wall art or they can make an album out of my stuff. There's just a whole different series of things that it lets you do with my photographs if you really love them. So you can do that with your family and your friends. It has a monthly charge, of course. But there are lots of other services out there that if you really want to get to sharing them with people, you can. You don't have to build a website in order to do that.
I think that's a great idea. So people can go to your website, look at your pictures, and purchase them, create their own albums, and that becomes their bucket list to motivate them to get out and see it themselves.
And I think one of the things I like about this service is they display the photos in a beautiful way. It's breathtaking. I look at that and think, did I take all of those? So when you get a good service, it's a real resource.
I've been reading media reports lately that there has been a lot of backlash against especially foreign tourists going to key areas like Rome and Venice seem to be particular hotspots for a lot of people, and the locals are overwhelmed by the number of tourists that are going in there. Do you see any problem with people traveling internationally? Or even
and I think Barcelona is another one. Here's why they're doing. Two things are happening. because of the circumstances in our country, a lot of the other countries are not going here. They're filling up Europe. And on top of that, the Airbnb kind of home sharing has withdrawn enough homes off the market that the locals don't have anywhere to live. And their prices are going dramatically high, and their rents are going up. So that's why it's not the tourists themselves that they're angry with. It's the circumstances around the fact that it's disrupting their lives and their abilities to live comfortably. So on those circumstances, you really can't blame them. But on the other hand, you need to be wary a little bit of not putting yourself in a circumstance where you're going to get in any kind of altercation with somebody. Just simply do your thing, be nice, be conscious, treat people well, and by and large, you're never going to see a problem. I have been traveling, as I say, for all these years. I have never once felt endangered. I have always tried to be a good citizen of the world. And every now and then somebody's crabby. But majority of time, if you show an interest in people, they'll show an interest in you. And so if you ask questions, you're curious, you want to know about them. I stayed in one little hotel, for example, in France, and they had an original Toulouse-Lautrec that was given to them by Lautrec to their grandmother. Now, I'm sitting there looking at this thing going, wow, is that a story in this nice little hotel? And so certainly you get into a conversation with the people there. So be nice, be kind, be compassionate and understanding. But if somebody is hassling you, just graciously indicate that you have to be somewhere and move on. Don't participate. And by the way, there's going to be homeless everywhere you go. There's going to be beggars. And you do not need to feel obligated. And I know it's painful, but it's okay to just walk by.
Okay. I would imagine that sometimes we as Americans can get a little arrogant when we're going overseas. I've heard that people have been saying that for years. So your idea or your advice to just be nice and ask questions, I think opens many doors. As people, I think, love to talk about the area that they live in because that's home to them. So they want to feel good and want people to feel good about being in their home.
And they'll share all kinds of information with you. And every now and then you'll get an invitation. Let me take you to dinner. Come to my house and meet my family. And say yes.
Do you have to know the language?
No, depending on where you are. I find that traveling in Europe is pretty easy. And also most of Eastern Europe. Where it gets a little more challenging is some parts of Asia. For example, China, with only a small percentage speak English. And Japan is a lot of English speakers there. But you can't read the street signs, and a lot of times you can't read the menus. The only challenging experience I really had was when I was dropped in the middle of Beijing without an interpreter, and a taxi driver got me to a tour late, and I'm stuck not knowing how and where to go. I figured it out, and a very sweet young man who was with the tour company, who did not speak English, knew that I was challenged and stuck. And he went across the street, found a payphone with one of the other vendors, and called his company to put them on the phone with me with an English speaker. People are really understanding and nice, but I would say that you're better off to go on a guided tour, especially in parts of Asia, if the language is more challenging.
I traveled to Europe a couple of years ago and was able to navigate my way by using Google Translate, the app, to speak English into it, and then it would speak out in that native language. And we had some amazing conversations with people doing that. And so that tool is available to us.
It is very clever, and it's increasingly being used by people. Absolutely.
I understand you put everything together in an e-guide to inspire people to consider international travel. Tell us about that.
I did. It's called 20 International Cities Where You Can Immerse Yourself in History and the books that'll make you feel as if you live there. So you can go and you can grab that guide at thehistorictraveler.com/guide. And let me make sure that you understand, you have to put THE in front, thehistorictraveler.com/guide. One other mention is if people are listening in the UK, use the American spelling 1L. So that you can get to that. Now, there is one other guide as well. So if you really want to be traveling in North America, we have a similar guide of 18 cities in North America, and you go to thehistorictraveler.com/guide NA, as in North America.
Okay, so we can find 20 places or 18 places to visit here in the United States and in Canada. That would be fun to. Cool. That's wonderful. We'll have to check that out. If you could turn the clock back, is there anything you'd be doing differently with your life?
I probably would have played more and worked less and been to more places by now. But I have no regrets. I feel in that sense that I am incredibly fortunate. Now, I didn't have a family and I didn't have some of the obligations that other people did. And I've been an entrepreneur all my entire life. I felt responsible to my clients a lot of times and my team, but still I could manage my own schedule, and that made it a blessing. I would get away at least somewhere between 3 and 5 weeks a year, and that has been an absolute one of the most glorious aspects of my long life, and I'll hit 74 this coming December.
That's pretty incredible. Do you have any challenges putting the Historic Traveler together or getting it up and running?
I have a terrific team. So the man that built my website is my digital partner. He and I have been working together for 18 years. So when I say, this is what I want, he makes it happen. But there are always challenges in it, and we're tweaking things and improving, particularly our social media. And I want to encourage people to come and visit us on social media. You can find us on virtually anything but X. So go find us wherever you can, The Historic Traveler or Historic Traveler International on Instagram. And we're always tweaking to see what's more fun. I'll tell you one of the fun things we're doing if you want to join us on Fridays, every Friday on social media. We release a video with me having the face of a famous woman in history. And the question is, who am I this week? That's a really fun thing. So we're always looking for creative ways to make the Historic Traveler fun. And I think the biggest challenge is just getting enough people to know about us. And that is an ongoing quest to tell the world about us and get people on as members. And for that reason, Greg, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and tell people about it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm glad to do it because I'd like to see more people out there living that kind of lifestyle where they are passionately exploring places, learning new things, meeting new people, and living the dream and clicking things off of their bucket lists. So it's one thing to create a bucket list, but it's an entirely different one to live it.
And I'm always looking for what's going to surprise you about a place. Yes, you can probably know the basics, but I'm going to find the historic nuance or the unusual building or the story behind that's going to make you go, oh, wow, that's really interesting. We want to keep you guessing all the way along.
Do you have any advice for people over 50 who may be challenged in figuring out what to do to give their life more meaning and purpose? Something that they could do to get them going?
If you have the funds, best thing to do is to book a tour. You don't have to do it all yourself. Get on a tour. And there are also there are programs for seniors that they take you into educational hostel kinds of situations. And those are really good too. They're not at the top of the list financially, but you get to learn and travel where you go. But any good tour company, the best thing, and here's what I love about any tour company, most likely, if you're on a bus tour, They carry the suitcases. You don't have to. From the moment you get on the bus, okay, all you're doing is putting them outside your doors. And it makes it so easy. And now I did my 9-week trip. I did the first 3 weeks on bus tours in France because I really hadn't been outside of Paris, which was absolutely phenomenal. Fell in love with many of the smaller cities in France. And then I worked with a travel agent to do the entire rest of the trip. And now at this age, I'm now a couple of years older. I don't think I'll do that again. I think I will do the bus tours.
Okay.
Just simply because, or go to one destination and stay, because it's too much on me at this point. If you can go, another suggestion is go to a particular destination and do day tours out of there to other places in the region. And that contains your costs as well. You're not bouncing it from place to place. So that's another good way to maximize what fees you have. But the point is, go book it yourself or join with a friend. Go get a friend and travel with you. That's one of the things we plan to do with the Historic Traveler is we have a travel matching program, which if you want to find people to go with, you'll be able to.
That would be a great service to offer as well, so that you're not stuck with somebody you might not get along with or anything like that. So you're matching it with people who share interests, personalities.
Exactly.
And, that's a great idea. I know that Amtrak has a program for travelers in America with their All Aboard America tour or pass that allows people to go to 30 days of travel all around. And like you said, just go to a city, spend a couple of days there and see everything there is in there, hop on the train and go somewhere else. I also heard recently that universities are opening up their dormitories in the summer when the students are gone for seasoned citizens to be able to stay there very inexpensively and be able, again, use it as a base to see everything in that area.
Absolutely. Those are great opportunities to tap into what's already there. And like I said, I think when you get to a place, there are a lot of times day trips out of those, bus day trip. Viator basically has bus day trips. I went to Lake Como from Milan on a tour. It was easy. It wasn't outrageously expensive. And that's another possible way to take advantage of these things.
Lots of options available. All it takes is a little time to research them, and subscribing to your publication will probably help them identify different places that they can travel affordably. So that's great. And again, how could people connect with you if they wanted to talk to you or to join your membership?
So you go to thehistorictraveler.com and you can take advantage right there of the membership program. It's up in the right-hand corner. You can reach out to me at Jackie@thehistorictraveler.com. You can find me all over social media, my own pages, and then the Historic Traveler pages. So any which way, you are welcome to connect with me, and I'd be delighted to see how I can best serve you and support you.
Thank you very much for sharing this story with me today. I found it inspiring, and I hope other people will too, to get off their duff, turn off the TV, and actually go out and experience life.
You're here. Thank you, Greg. I really would love to see people enjoy the travel that enriches them.
That's a great way to end it. Thank you again. Travel has always given Jackie Lapin deep meaning and purpose. For her, it isn't about checking destinations off a list. Rather, it's about connecting with the stories, architecture, and spirit of each place she visits. She sees travel as a way to time travel through history and to walk in the footsteps of people who came before, as well as capture their legacy through photography and storytelling. Jackie finds joy in helping others to do the same. Through the Historic Traveler, she invites people to rediscover the world with curiosity and reverence, whether by visiting ancient ruins, staying in century-old hotels, or reading novels set in another era. Her work proves that travel can be both educational and deeply personal, as well as a way to nurture wonder, creativity, and gratitude at any stage of life. As Jackie put it, I want people to enjoy travel experiences which enrich them. That spirit of discovery, learning, and joy defines her encore journey and continues to inspire others to make the most of every opportunity to explore this beautiful and historic world. People can connect with Jackie at www.thehistorictraveler.com. worldtraveler.com or on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and YouTube. That's all for this week's show. If you'd like to start living a more meaningful life, I encourage you to download our free guide to finding purpose, which is available at www.forwardfrom50.com. I'll have another inspirational interview on the next episode of the Forward from 50 podcast. Thanks for listening, and if you like the show, please consider leaving a review wherever you download the episodes.